Just sum that one up for us, Rohan, for one last time.
Emphatic. There was a real drive and determination from the opening whistle, and it didn't stop the whole way. It wasn't without blemish, but the effort and the intent was there, and it shows the spirit that are in those mostly young blokes in there. They've been bashed from pillar to post mentally in their own head probably, and then from some external noise. But they bonded together this week and played together and ended the season about as well as we could have, today, given what had happened previously. It couldn't have gone any better. And those young kids getting their debut, Leeds kids in Tom and Alfie getting their debut, against Cass and playing like that. It was a good night to finish a turbulent season.
I was going to ask you how you'd sum the season up as a whole, and I'll ask you that in a moment. Is it reassuring insofar as it's the last hit out and the side have shown you that it is in there? It would have been an awful way maybe to go out with 3 poor performances, if you know what I mean.
I already knew. I think the best part of it is that everyone that came tonight and will follow the scores wherever they are in the country or around the world. It shows them that there's a lot of ability and spirit to get back up off the floor, and it's what life's about. You're going to get knocked down, and you get up, get on with it, and show some courage, and we'll be better for it. But today was a good day, and that's all we can really savour at the moment. Is that was a good performance, and one for a lot of those young kids in there to remember.
And there are a lot of young kids in there, aren't there? What about your 2 debutants? How did you feel they went?
Yeah, really well. Really well. Tom got a bit more time, given the scoreline, got more time than I probably anticipated, but the best way to get out there and learn is in the heat of the battle. And we had a few bumps and bruises as the game went on. I was eager to get Alfie on a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to make sure it was the right move, and he did his job. And those 2 kids came in last year. They were training, of an evening, and offered the chance to train during the daytime with the Super League crew, and they helped us prepare long after, for Tom, long after his season had finished. He was still there training hard and allowing us to do opposed at training in the build-up to the grand final last year, and Alfie was getting ready for an academy grand final, and those kids haven't missed a thing. I don't think Alfie missed, I think he got managed in 1 training session this year. Otherwise, he's done everything asked of him and more, played reserves. He's been 18th man 8 times. Those kids are Leeds through and through, and there was quite a memorable night even before kick-off tonight. I've been around rugby league dressing rooms since I can remember, and that was a really special moment in the dressing rooms before the game when the families were in there to present the jerseys and say a few words, and it shows you what rugby league and sport is all about, that meaning and mateship and creating memories.
Just get your thoughts on Castleford's debutant tonight. Fletcher really thought he did really well at fullback. Yeah,
it's a tough, of all the positions, playing fullback on a tough night. When you're young and on debut, that's a tough and lonely place to be. And I actually commented to the coaching staff up there watching the game. I said, that kid keeps turning up and he keeps putting himself front and centre. So, I just bumped into him actually and said, congratulations on making your debut. And, it'll be a tough night, but also a memorable one for him to achieve probably a childhood dream.
What about David Fuster-Tui's contribution tonight?
Yeah, he's come up with some big plays, and Fuster's really stepped forward in the last little while. He, even in some disappointing team performances, Fuster's put his hand up and shown us what he can do, and shown the fans what he can do there tonight with some of his finishing. As well as some of his yardage carries. He's a quality man, and especially great way to celebrate 150 games for Fuss. He's been through a lot, but he's such a good person and a great player.
So this time last year, you were looking ahead to the grand final. How different are your emotions 12 months on, and how do you sum up the season?
Personally, I wasn't on top of the world preparing for the grand final. It was just getting ready for another game, and as I said, I haven't really reflected on that too much. It's always about moving forward. It's been for the players that are in there, and back to the jersey presentation there earlier, the amount of people in our club that found their way into that dressing room before the game that wanted to be part of that jersey presentation showed players that are leaving, young players that are playing in academy and reserves. Every man and their dog were in there to celebrate those young kids. So there's a lot of spirit, and there's a lot of ability, and there's a lot of a belief in this group. The group that played, but also the group in and around that are injured and unavailable. So we've learned a lot. We've let ourselves down at various times this year. Some other people have let us down as well, and left us short on troops at times. But we've kept fronting up, and they've kept connected, and they've worked together, and they're good mates. They haven't turned. It's still been enjoyable to me. Hard, but enjoyable, and that's what life and sport is supposed to be. Last year, going to the grand final, it was hard and enjoyable as well. So nothing much shifts for me, but there's a lot of belief in that group. There's a lot of good people. There's a lot of good things happened in this club behind the scenes throughout the year, and there's foundations being laid. It's difficult, and I respect the fans for keep turning up and keep singing, and I respect that they're disappointed as well on the whole overall season, as we all are. We all live and breathe it every minute, every day, and all we want to do is do well for the club, and we'll be fighting back next pre-season, that's for sure.
So just lastly for me, Rohan, now, as the line's drawn under this season, what's the first thing that happens now with a view to pushing that pushing on next season? Is there anything sort of pivotal that you need to get sorted?
Lots of review this week. Staff have got a full week of. It'll probably be the hardest week of the season for the staff to debrief and to get forward planning. The players will have a debrief later in the week individually and medical and that stuff. That's important. A really important week for us this week. And then there's a bunch of recruitment that's going on in the background to get those last few spots signed off, and then the planning really starts, which to me is really enjoyable and fun part of the season. No matter how this season finished, getting the next one prepared is something I love to do.
How many more players are you expecting, Rohan, from people who've not been announced in terms of more signings?
There's probably 3 spots, I reckon, pending if there's any other movement amongst our roster.
In terms of Jacksonfield, he really took control of that game at half-back, and he's a young 19-year-old getting his first try. Do you think he'll be increasingly pivotal next season?
Yeah, that's the plan, is that he gets more games next year and gets the opportunity to play when we select him and when he's ready, rather than he's been thrown into the deep end a little bit again. He was last year in tough times, and then this year he's had to play when the team's not functioning at its best and without a bunch of first choice players. So it's difficult for a halfback to bounce back this week and show the courage and the spirit to do what he did today was a real real sign of his character as well as his ability.
You've always talked about the spirit, haven't you? Said it's never in doubt, and you can see that tonight. Does that sort of, with those young lads that you've talked about, does that encourage hopes you can really kick on next season with the lads that are coming in, have a real, crack at the top end of the table, perhaps?
Next year is a new year, just like this one was, based on whatever happened last year. But there's, we'll be a different team next year. There'll be some key positions that are different, so that. That'll take a bit of time to click, but the core of the group is there, and the future is in that academy group and the kids coming out of the scholarship this year. There's a bunch of dudes that are going to play a lot of Super League there. So we've got to get the top part right next year and get ourselves in a good position to strike.
Do you think Harry answered his critics tonight?
I don't know who his critics are or what they're looking for, but Harry and I actually had a probably 10 or 15 minute chat after we'd had our team meeting tonight, just talking about the past, present and future. And he's a good young man that wants to play well for Leeds. He wants to get the south stand bouncing. He wants to play with his teammates. He certainly, for all of them, there was some of the words spoken in there before the game and at half time from Ash Hanley particularly. And Harry was a big part of that as well. Like, those guys have copped it this week, They've copped, abuse at times that's not fair. Fans can be disappointed and frustrated and whatnot, but they fronted up. Like, they fronted up to it during the week and they fronted up to it tonight and played hard. And, Harry was certainly a big part of that, but it's one of those nights where it's probably hard to pick the best player, I reckon, because everyone did their job and that's what we're about.
How important was the time in Perpignan after the game? Because you were talking about you were going to stay together. It was important that you all were around the same table. Was that the result of that tonight?
Yeah, I felt like it helped. Even while we were enduring the delays and whatnot, I felt like the trip was harsh lessons on the game day, but post game it was camaraderie, at its best. I'm sure in every walk of life or business, whatever, you're going to have some hard days, and you want your mates to be next to you during those hard days, and that's what these guys have shown. So I'm proud of that. We need to be better in lots of ways, and we will be, but all you can ask is for people to keep fronting up and look each other in the eye and try and right their wrongs, and that's what we've managed to do this week.